Shalom, shalom. I want to start off by saying, Call halal Allah, Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rakakadash. I also want to give a double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, whom I learned the truth from. Greetings, salutations to all you Arkins tuning in. And, we're back again, prophesying the downfall of this kingdom, the kingdom of the Edomites of the Bible. You may ask yourself, we always talk about Edomites, right? And Esau. Who is Esau? Who are the Edomites? Well, they are a biblical nation, okay? All nations on the planet have a biblical nationality. Back in the ancient times, people weren't known as white people, all right? People weren't known as Chinese people, Asian people. These are new terms that were given to these nations on the planet, pretty much. You know, back then people didn't refer to somebody else as, this is a person that is of Asian descent, of black descent, of and all these terms and nomens that everybody want to call themselves or label themselves. Back then, you used to identify yourself as son of this and son of whom and whomever, going back to your the patriarch of your nation. Okay, like a good example of it is when the genealogy of Yahushai. He was the son of David. And so going back to David and so forth. Son of Joseph, son of this and so forth, right? Um, so Esau is the progenitor of the so-called white race, okay, or the Edomites, whose name got changed to Edom, which the word Edom means red, okay, and they are the current rulers of the world. Okay, the scriptures say, Job 9:24, the earth was given into the hand of the wicked. Okay, now you may ask yourself, why is the world in the state that it's in? Well, it's due to biblical prophecy, because the wicked rule. And as the scriptures say, when the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice, but when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. The whole world is in a state of mourning. There's wars and famines going on everywhere, and it's only about to get worse, because guess what? The end of this world, as you know, is getting close. you know. But the average American don't study. They only care about their daily lives, walking in the park. They don't know what the hell thing what's going on abroad until it affects home. Now it's hitting home. So, you may have some people that, may look into certain things, but when you're paying $10 a gallon for regular gas, that's when everybody, starts saying, hey, what's going on here? You know, and as the scriptures say, suddenly the sown places will appear unsown. And that's a prophecy stating that this well put together place, right, sown, right, like America is gonna appear to be in shambles. It's gonna appear to be out of order, in disorder, and that happens when the price of diesel goes up, because diesel is what moves these trucks, man. Now the trucking business is the lifeline of America. It's the bloodline of America. And these truckers, they run on diesel. So when diesel fuel goes through the roof, guess what? Your food goes through the roof, your clothes goes through the roof, everything goes through the roof. And that's what people don't understand, man. You know, but no, like I said, nobody pays attention. As long as their daily lives and what they're used to, their commodities not interrupted. And we seen that with COVID, right? When COVID came out and everybody was up in arms about these quarantines and staying indoors, and you couldn't do shit, and everybody's daily lives came to a halt whenever they said, hey man, look, we got this thing now, this jab now, you can come in and everything will go back to normalcy. Nobody questioned it. Everybody lined up right quick. Oh yeah, we're gonna get this thing, and the whole world is gonna go back to how it was. you know and that's why, because these people are programmed, man. It's all predictive programming. They program you, um through your media, your entertainment, which is entering the mind. They program you through all these via these ways, man. you know and this is just the modern day Romans, the modern day Babylonians. Like, they're the same people. Just like back in Rome, you had the Colosseum, you had the games, you had, and that's all people cared about. You know, they had their work, their daily lives. They went to work and all, and then business as usual. Let me grab some scriptures here. Um, I keep saying I gotta get a new iPad, and I haven't been able to. But Lord willing, I'll make that happen. But I'm gonna roll with the spirit, and I'm gonna let the words come out as it may. Um, you know, let's see. This is Second Esdras 6:22. It says, "And suddenly shall the sown places appear unsown; the full storehouses shall suddenly be found empty." Right? And these storehouses, these stores, they only hold roughly about what 3 days worth of merchandise before it's wiped out clean. You know, so if there's an interruption with the fuel situation, you know, society, as people know it, collapses in an instant. You know, in an instant, you'll have people fighting for bread, and that's what's going on, bro. And that's also in the scriptures that there shall be a famine of bread. You know, neighbor shall fight against its neighbor. You know, it ain't gonna matter if you've known your neighbor for 20 plus years, you've known Joe for 20 plus years. When all hell breaks loose, which we will, Daniel's, I believe, what is it, 12:1, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, right? All you, including you, especially you Jakes, man, you Israelites, these people on this sign, the so-called Negroes, Native Americans, and Latinos, you're gonna be the first targets. But when all hell breaks loose, man, you know, they ain't gonna, especially, you know, these white people, they ain't gonna care that they've been your friends for 20 plus years, man. They're gonna do one up on you, man. They're gonna come up and kill you. And that's when that hatred, that natural instinct hatred is gonna come out. You know? That hatred ain't never gonna go away because they're the Edomites and we're the Israelites. Okay, and that's just how it is. We're the real Israelites. The real people that walked across the Red Sea. Okay? That the Most High split the Red Sea for. All right, because we fit the biblical prophecy, right? We fit the biblical prophecy. These so-called Israelites don't fit a single prophecy of the Bible, not a single prophecy of the Bible. And they want to talk about the Holocaust. They want to talk about all these things, but they never talk about the transatlantic slave trade. Far more of our people died in a worse way than Hitler's Germany, way worse. But everybody get amnesia whenever they talk about the transatlantic slave trade. But the scriptures say what? That the children should complain of an ungodly father. Okay? This is the truth and reality of America. Nothing but bloodshed, murder, pillaging, robbing, and that's the history of the white man. So-called white man's history, nothing but murder, pillaging, rob. You name it. Those are bad things. But we read Job 9:24, right? We understand that the earth was given in the hand of the wicked, which is the man of sin, the man of perdition. Who's the man of sin and the man of perdition? Esau, Edom. Okay, and it's important. It's important if you want to understand why the world is in the ruckus that it's in. You have to understand who this man is. Okay, what he was created for. He was created to be the waster, the destroyer. You know, if you create a nuclear weapon, what's your mindset like, man? What's your mindset, right? To look for weapons so far destructive that can wipe out where you live. You have to be a damn devil for that, man. And we know ultimately that it was the hand of the Lord, that the Lord put it in the minds of the scientists on the Operation Paperclip to create these nuclear missiles. But you have to be a damn devil to create you have to be the worst of the worst to create a nuclear missile. To create anything as destructive as that, something got to be wrong with you. Okay, let me grab this. Um, Now I was looking at the Piers Morgan show. This dude from UK, the famous dude from UK. He was interviewing this dude Del Bilzerian. You know, he's a well-known character. You know that made his money by making videos with a bunch of girls and prostitutes on yachts and whatever. You know, living a worldly. You know what they do, right? and they were discussing the matters of Gaza and what's going on with the Palestinian and stuff, and they're accusing the dude of anti-Semitism and this, that, and the third. Right now, it's aligned with prophecy because the book of Nahum um, clearly says that they shall make their own. The Lord is going to make their tongues to fall upon themselves. They're going to tell on themselves, and that's exactly what they've done because you can only keep a lie for so long, right? When you tell a lie, you're going to go in a rabbit hole. You got to make it up. When somebody questions it, you got to make it up with another lie and then another lie. Wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. You said this X, Y, and Z. Now you're saying B. So now you got to come up with a lie. Why you say what you said? And now you got these Republicans and right wingers uh, questioning, right, the decision making in Washington, why they are supporting a genocidal regime and this, that, and the third, and everybody's hip to the antics, man. Everybody's hip to the antics of who these people are, right? But the people you can't talk about, are in power. Okay, when you can't talk about these people without something happening to you, you know who's in power, right? So he was going back and forth and saying anti-Semitic, anti-Semitic, and one of the things that Dan Bilzerian said was, well, they want to label everybody Amalek. They want to label, and which is true. If you go into what they teach that everybody else that's non of Jewish descent is Amalek. But what they don't understand is who is Amalek, right? Now we got Genesis 36 and 12, right? It says, and Timnah was concubine to Eliphaz, Esau's son, and she bare to Eliphaz Amalek. These were the sons of Ada, Esau's wife. So Amalek is a grandson of Esau, okay, which is the progenitor, okay, of the Edomites, right? Just like you have Israel, all right, which come from the man Jacob, whose name got changed to Israel, and he's the progenitor of the 12 tribes of Israel. So Esau was Jacob's brother. So when you call somebody Amalek, an Amalekite, those are still Edomites. It's just a different branch of Esau. Just like you have different branches of Israelites. You have the Judites, you have the Gadites, you have the Manassites, the Simeonites, the Ephraimites. You have just different branches, right? Which are different mini nations within the nation. Okay, you have different kingdoms. And it goes for all the families of the earth, whether it be the Moabites, the Ammonites. They had sons, and they were patriarchs. They're different nations. Okay, so these people have the whole world duped. That's why the scriptures talk about the covering that was cast upon the people, because they are able to subjugate the people by saying they're God's chosen people. So now they can subjugate the whole world, but it's all a lie, because these are the real God's chosen people, right? When you look into the Bible and you start questioning everything, you can see all the holes that are in that theory. Okay, that theory has a bunch of holes, man. Has a bunch of holes, right? And one of the main holes is the fact that they were established in that land by the American government, okay, by something called the Balfour Declaration. And even before that, you have to understand that some of them were paid to go in there into the land, right? By the bankers, the international banking family, who actually rule the world. Okay, so these are things that the you gotta dive into. You gotta look deeply into to understand, right? To understand the complexity of this man's system, because when the scriptures talk about the old serpent Esau, indeed is definitely talking about him, because he is a serpent. That a serpent is a very cunning animal. It lies in wait. It lies there, and when you least expect it, it bites you, and you think it's harmless. You ain't really looking. When you start walking in the jungle, you ain't really looking for no serpents. You may consciously know that that's a possibility, but you ain't looking for it. And then boom, you get bitten and you're dead. You see? So this is what we're waiting for, man. We're waiting for the Lord to come back and take this man out of power. Okay? And that's exactly what we want. Let me see. Salaki, I'm gonna. This is Isaiah chapter 14. All right, went away. All right, it says 14 and 1. It says, "For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them." You got this damn Freedom Trail crap, you know? Damn Freedom Trail, you know, freedom for who? You know, it wasn't freedom for all at that time. During that time, they were spilling the blood of the Native Americans. And they don't teach that in that Freedom Trail. The Native American blood was spilled in this land by these damn devils. And they don't teach that. They ain't going to touch upon that. Why? Because they're the devil the Bible speaks of. But guess what? The Lord's going to come back and he's going to exact vengeance. Right? Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. You know? Nobody believed that the Roman Empire was going to fall. When the Roman Empire was in its heights, nobody believed it. The Grecians, same thing. All these empires that fallen when they were in the height of their power, nobody believed it. The American Empire, no different. The American Empire, what makes it different? Now you got to take a look at when the Roman Empire fell. What was the things that were going on? You know, you had the devaluation of the dinar, right, which is the currency. You had civil wars erupting. You had the military stretched out so thin, it pretty much became useless, right? Because a force is only effective in cohesion once it comes together, right? But if you spread out your enemy's military, you can pick them off here and there. It's basic military strategy, right? So, but you know, the modern day Babylonian, you know, they can't see it because since no foreign powers touch the U.S., they solely believe that this is going to go on forever. As it is written, their inward thought is that their generation shall go on and on. That's in the scriptures. That's what the scriptures say. So let me keep reading. "For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob and will yet choose Israel and set them in their own land," right? "And the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressor." That's not what we're seeing over there, man. You know, that's not what we're seeing over there. It says, "And it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow and from thy fear and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve, that thou shalt take up this proverb of the king of Babylon." Now, what bondage have these so-called Israelis been on? The people on this side came here in slavery, hardcore bondage, enslaved ships. They castrated us. They burnt us. They nigger barbecuing, right? They sent postcards. These devils sent postcards to each other, you know, celebrating. You had little Edomite little devils, like 7, 8 years old, laughing at a brother hanging from a tree. You know, atrocities way worse than Hitler so-called did to them over there on these so-called gas chambers, right? But this is how you know and how you can confirm that we are the children of the Heavenly Father, because when you look at these alternate news medias and stuff like that, they you know they talk about every injustice in the planet, all injustices, right? They talk about the Palestinian injustice. They talk about the main one, the Holocaust, right? They talk about, you know, things that are apartheid. They talk about Africa during the apartheid in South Africa, during the Nelson Mandela era. They talk about everything else, every fucking injustice except the injustices that are still being done, the crimes that are still being done to the people on this side, the systemic enslavement of the people on this side. They talk about everything else under the planet except what these people went through. That the sharks still to this day follow the trail in the Atlantic Ocean, right? That way more people, millions of our people, died, were castrated, burnt, their teeth, you name it, buck breaking, right? They used to screw our men, right? The so-called white men, the Edomites, right? They talk about every other injustice except that, and that's how you know we're the real Israelites, man. Because once they go down that rabbit hole, they have to understand, holy shit, Deuteronomy 28 and 68 is real, right? That thou shalt go into Egypt again via ships, and that thou shalt see your land no more. Psalms the 83rd chapter, that thou shalt be discontinued from thy heritage. What heritage? The heritage that you're an Israelite. Now you're gonna be known as a nigger. You're gonna be known as a spick. You're gonna be known as a tomahawk. You're gonna be known as every other byword name under the planet, except what you really are, an Israelite, a son of power, which is the word Israel means Yasharallah, which means he's a prince of power. You see? So every other atrocity can be spoken of constantly, repeatedly. But when it comes to the atrocities on the people on this sign, it's everybody's amnesia throughout the board, right? But we like that. You know why? Because that's how we know that the Lord has a chosen people. That's how we know that the reason why the Lord dealt way worse with us was because we got the law, statutes, and commandments. The law, statutes, and commandments was given to Moses on Mount Sinai, and then down to the Israelites, right? Who are these people right here? All right, and that's right and wrong, right? Let me keep reading. It says, verse 4. It says that thou shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how hath the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked and the scepter of the rulers. And this is modern day Babylon, because the word Babylon means confusion. America is the land of confusion. You can't tell from a woman anymore and a man. They look the same. You don't know who's a woman, right? This Transformers now. You know, it's all confusion. Crazy people are labeled as sane, as lucid. Crazy people, because for you to be a man and say you're a woman, you're crazy. You belong in a psych ward. You belong in a goddamn psych ward because you weren't born like that, right? But you have people protesting and saying, yo, you know, that's totally perfectly normal and fine, right? You know, that's like saying a cow is a dog. You know, if somebody says, yep, that cow is a dog, yeah, you're gonna say that person is lucid or sane? Fucks no. You're gonna be like, what the? Get this guy out of here, right? But this is Babylon, man. This is Sodom and Gomorrah 2.0 coming back, and that's why the Lord's gonna destroy it with fire and brimstone via thermonuclear missiles. Thermonuclear fire is gonna destroy this place known as the United States of America. All right, and that's in the Bible. Revelations, the 18th chapter, and all throughout the Bible talks about nuclear war. Okay, nuclear war is imminent. Okay, and all you people are gonna die. Okay, unless you're one of the chosen of the Heavenly Father, right? Starting with the 144,000 on down. That's the only people that are gonna be delivered of this thermonuclear holocaust that's gonna come. Let me keep reading. The Lord had broken the staff of the wicked, and who's the wicked? We went over it. The Esau, starting with Amalek, the head nation. Okay, that's the head tribe, right? When the scriptures talk about the least of the flock are gonna draw them out. It's talking about this so-called these Amalekites, these so-called Jews. Okay, they're the least of the flock from Amalek. So and you clearly seen that, because now they talking about trying to get the U.S. out of NATO, so that man, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. You have Trump calling NATO a paper tiger. You have Trump saying NATO's useless to U.S. interests, right? So they're trying to pull the U.S. out of NATO so that that Article 5 may no more be, right? So that way it can give these Israelis a chance to go fight with Turkey. And we want them to go fight with Turkey. Go fight Turkey, man. Go get this Third World War started, man. You know, they're gonna get blasted, annihilated. Turkey has the biggest army in the whole of NATO, right? They got the biggest military in NATO. over a million man army. And Erdogan already said it, man. We ain't playing with y'all, man. So that's why the scriptures say the least of the flock shall draw them out, because if the Israelis go to war with Turkey, the U.S. is going to go to war with Turkey. And guess what? Then Russia's going to join in. All right. China's going to, because Russia has interest with Syria. And Syria is part of the Ottoman Turks Empire. Okay. So the Turks view Syria as part of their right, their right to that land, because according to history, according to them, that land was theirs, right? So by removing America out of NATO, it's open game. It's open game for open war with Turkey, right? By destroying the NATO alliance, is open, and that's why when the scriptures say that the ten horns shall hate the horde and shall burn it with fire. That's what it's talking about. That's what it's talking about, right? These European nations eventually coming up against America. Okay, man, I gotta get me a phone, Salaki, man. I don't want Ratazah. I'm gonna get a better phone because I can't look up scriptures. I gotta type the scriptures beforehand before I start camping. I gotta look up all the scriptures, and because the iPads, this is a cheap iPad. If you go cheap, you know what happens. And I have to look the scriptures up and line them up. That in the line that I want to go, or what I want to speak. But the spirit rolls where it rolls, so it's kind of hard. But I don't want to represent, man. The bottom line is, I come out here sincerely believing that the Lord may have mercy on me, man. This is one of the requirements that the Lord gave us, man. The Great Commission to go out and to teach the gospel to the four corners of the earth, to go to the highways and byways and bind as many as you can to the marriage. Okay? That marriage is when the elect joins the Lord in the sky, which the word marriage means joined together. So when we join the Lord in the skies, that's going to create that new Jerusalem, which the apostles saw coming down from heaven. He saw the bride adorned, with the bridegroom. The bridegroom,
if it's not him,
Yahushua Hamashiach, and that bride is the elect of these people on this sign. Okay, so I don't want to zah, man. Next week, man, I can, get a separate phone service so that I can look up the scriptures at will. Okay, but anyways, this is still good stuff, man. It's edifying, man. So it says, the Lord has broken the staff of the wicked, Esau, and the scepter of the rulers. The modern day ruler, the scepter, who has a scepter that's ruling the earth with an iron fist, are the so-called white men, Esau, Edom. Okay? It says, he who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke, he that ruled the nations in anger, is persecuted and unhindered. And right, and via America, the Edomites are ruling the earth in anger. They're ruling the earth, toppling governments, killing governments, putting massive sanctions on people, blockading people. Now they're trying to really gonna mess up Cuba. Now Cuba's been embargoed for 40 plus years, right? Ever since the Cold War, and they got them Cubans eating from trash cans. Why? Because they didn't subscribe to Esau's antics, right? So, and that's what they do. They rule the earth with a continual stroke, with a tremendous evilness, man. Relentless. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. Yeah, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no fella is come up against us. And the earth is going to see peace and stability, all right, once this man gets taken out of power. Okay, that's what the earth is going to start to replenish, because there's not going to be no more thievery, no more invasions, going into this land, trying to take this land, no more circumventing treaties and breaking treaties and doing just straight out devil shit, man, just like they like to do. There ain't gonna be no more of that. Ain't gonna be none of that. All right, you know, once the Lord take this man out of power, the so-called white man, the earth is gonna go back to being the way it was before they came into power, before the 1400s. All right, it used to be a real dystopia. You know, a real dystopia, right? Where you could leave your son out in the street, your baby, and he'll be fine. As a matter of fact, there's a scripture for that. The scriptures say that our children are going to be able to put their hands in a cockatrice mouth, a crocodile's mouth, and they ain't going to bite. And that's symbolic of the harmony, the peace, the safety that's going to come back on the earth. One, this man taken out of power, because there's going to be no more greed. The scriptures say that in the book of Habakkuk, that he enlarges his desire like the grave. He's an insatiable, wicked individual. Okay, he can never have enough, man. He can never have enough. You put him on an island, and they're gonna start venturing on. Let's go check out what that island got. Let's go over here. Let's go over there. Let's take them. Man, yo, yo. There was these two damn devils got arrested not too long ago, because they wanted to go subjugate. I think it was some Virgin Island where all Jakes, but it was such a small island, and they were plotting, and somehow the FBI got tipped off, you know, and there were two Edomites. Lord willing, I'll get the article and I'll bring it out next week. But there was two Edomites that they were plotting to go take over this little island, and what they wanted to do was go subjugate the island, kill off all the men, and take over the island and just have it. That is some Edomite shit for you, boy. That's some Edomite. That's exactly what the people are. That's how they are, man. It don't get no more Edomite than that, man. That is their behavior. Okay, that is who they are. Okay, they are the harbingers of death, destruction, pillaging. They can't conform with just you know, having this piece of land and that be theirs, and living peacefully with everybody else. They don't belong on the earth, man. They don't belong on this planet, man. You know, and that's why the scriptures say in the book of Obadiah, the 18th verse, that the Lord is going to ultimately wipe them out. The Lord is going to genocide them completely. There ain't going to be one Edomite left on the planet, because they were created to be an evil individual, man. That's a race of evil. They're a race of devils, man. There ain't going to be none more left. They can't. Okay? Let me keep going. Isaiah 14 and 9. It says, hell from beneath is moved for thee to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee, even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of nations, and they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down. And this sums up a lot, man. Why? Because, you know, there's nobody more proud than an Edomite, man. You can tell by Donald Trump. He's the epitome of pride, man. He's the epitome of pride. This dude, which one of his main mentor was a guy named, last name Khan. It was Khan, something like that. And if you look at his 3 rules for life, right? I think is Robert Khan, if I'm not mistaken. I got to look up the name again, his last name was Khan, right? And if you look at Khan's, which he was Donald Trump's mentor, his main mentor, right? This is a known fact, right? His 3 rules for life is, number 1, never ever accept defeat, right? Never concede to anything. Number 2, always go on the attack. Always go on the attack, right? Never say that you're wrong, right? That was 2 of his main points, and that's exactly what this dude Trump lives by. You know, he lives by just that. He never accepts any losses. Now, mind you, they lost the Iranian war. The Iranian war is over, because For you to win a war, America hasn't won a war since World War II. For you to win a war, right, you have to either meet your military objectives or you have to make your enemy capitulate, right? None of the military objectives have been achieved in Iran. None, not a single one of them, right? The regime is still there. They have a lot of missiles, and so forth and so on, right? Now, same thing in Vietnam. Vietnam, they lost the Vietnam War. They had to eventually leave, right? Because the Viet Cong got on their ass. Ho Chi Minh, he got on their ass, just like they did with the French because of the guerrilla tactics, guerrilla warfare. Um, Korea, Korea is a ceasefire that is still going on to this day. They got the DMZ line. So all them Korean veterans died for nothing, right? All them people that died in Korea was for nothing. Now, we're losing South Korea. America's losing South Korea. Why? Because South Korea was under the protection umbrella. But what did the U.S. do, right? They grabbed all the protection, which was these Patriot batteries, these THAAD missiles, these theater high altitude area ballistic missiles, right? That's what the THAAD is. And they moved the THAAD over to send to the Israelis. So now the South Koreans are going over to Xi Jinping, talking about, hey man, let's talk. So they're losing South Korea. And South Korea is one of the main chip distributors. A lot of the chips that go in your electronics come from South Korea and China. A lot of the chips that Raytheon and these government contractors use to create Patriots, $6 million Patriot missiles, because they're built by hand, they come from China. Rare earth minerals that they use, the rare earth that comes from China. So you think China's gonna willingly, right? Because we're in an active war with China, believe it or not, right? Both economically, politically, you name it, right? You think that China's gonna willingly give the enemy what it needs to destroy them? You know, people ain't stupid, man. So bottom line is, man, we're in the third world war. See, the thing is, World War II wasn't known as a world war till after the fact, right? You had Hitler invading Poland, but before Hitler invaded Poland, there was already talks of declaring war, and it was the British that were saying, you know, before Winston Churchill, you know, if Germany attacks Poland, we're gonna declare war on Germany. You had Japan talking about, because they were getting embargoed so bad, right, that they were talking about attacking the United States. So before the Second World War was known as a world war, right? It was after the fact. It wasn't before the fact. So we are in the Third World War, okay? And this Third World War is going to culminate in the uttermost destruction of the U.S. via thermonuclear fire. And that's also biblical prophecy. Like I said, you have to read Revelations, the 18th chapter, Joel, the 3rd chapter, that speaks about the Garden of Eden being before them and behind them a flame. That flame is talking about those thrusters, because when the prophets saw these visions, they didn't know that they were going to be called ICBM missiles. You're talking thousands of years ago. So they describe these visions as best as they can, or as best as they could. So some of them describe them as horses that shall not break their ranks. Right? We go. As a matter of fact, let's grab the scriptures. Right? Let's grab the scriptures. Joel chapter 3. It says 3 and let's see. I think it's Joel chapter 2. Okay, it says Joel chapter 2 and 1. It says, "Blow ye the trumpet in Zion, right, and sound an alarm in my holy mountain. Let all the inhabitants of the land tremble, for the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand." Now, the day of the Lord is when Yahweh Shai, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ, comes back and cracks the clouds, right? It says a day of darkness and of gloominess. Now, this is a counter to what these so-called Christians love to say. You know, the rapture is going to be all love and dovey. You're going to have a so-called white man, you know, with blonde, long hair, blue-eyed, half naked, coming down the sky to deliver people. You know, and everybody's gonna be lovey-dovey, right? That's not what the scriptures say. Okay? It says, "For the day of the Lord cometh, for it is nigh at hand, a day of darkness and of gloominess, a day of clouds and of thick darkness, as the morning spread upon the mountains. A great people and a strong, there hath not been ever the like, neither shall be any more after it, even to the years of many generations." Right? It says, a fire. Here's the description of the nuclear missiles. Right? A fire devoureth before them, and behind them a flame burning. The land, right, is as the Garden of Eden before them, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yeah, and nothing shall escape them. So a fire devours before them because the nuclear warhead is on the front, okay, and that's what causes the damage, right? Behind them a flame burning. That's that thruster from the engine, because these missiles, they have an engine just like a plane engine. They have a engine on the back that propels the missile like a plane. You know, takes it off, right? And that rocket system, you know, for that delivery vehicle. Because at the end of the day, it's still a vehicle. It's a delivery. It's called a delivery vehicle. You know, just like the Oreshnik, which the Oreshnik, it's a missile that can be stopped by, it's a hypersonic missile that can be stopped by any type of defense batteries, okay? Which the Russians created the Oreshnik, right, to counter American defense batteries, and they're unstoppable. They travel at Mach 18, you know, Mach 18. We're talking what, almost 18 times faster than a bullet. So you can't stop these missiles, and that's why Israel's getting hammered, because the Iranians got the Karam Shar missile. They got these other missiles, right? Um, so let me keep reading. It says, a fire devours before them, and behind them a flame burneth. The land is as the Garden of Eden before them, right? Because before the missile hits ground zero, everything is as it is. Everything is beautiful, just like we see it. But after the missile hits, it's uttermost destruction. And you can take a look at that movie Terminator 2. You see when Sarah Connor was on that fence, you know, and that beast just swept, that fire just swept, right? It says, I think it's Terminator Genesis. I think that was the movie. So it says, and behind them a desolate wilderness. Yeah, nothing shall escape them. The appearance of them is as the appearance of horses, and as horsemen, so shall they run. Like the noise of chariots on the tops of mountains shall they leap, like the noise of a flame of fire that devoureth the stubble, as a strong people set in battle array. Okay? All right, and you know, when all these missiles hit, they fly in formation. A lot of them fly in formation like this, right? And that's what this is talking about. So when the prophet Obadiah saw this, Joel Salaki, when the prophet Joel saw this, you know, he was describing what he was seeing, right? It says, they shall run like mighty men, they shall climb the wall like men of war, and they shall march every one in his ways, and they shall not break their ranks, neither shall one thrust another. They shall walk every one in his path, and when they fall upon the sword, they shall not be wounded. Okay, right? Because a thermonuclear missile gets its coordinates, and it's a precision guided munition. It's a precision guided missile, so it don't just break its rank or go here or there. You know, it's a precision guided munition. Okay, and they're so precise, in fact, right, that we're seeing the devastation that these Karam Shah missiles are causing upon Israel. Okay, the Fatah 1, the Fatah 2. Now you got to see that video, man. That Fatah 2, man. Yo, bro, that video. I just type in Fatah 2. the Iranian, one of Iran's fastest ballistic missile. It's so fast. The guy tried to capture it on a camera, and that shit was pew. It was just it was insane, man. It was insane. I'm like, how the hell they gonna stop a missile? Some crazy shit like that, like the Fatah 2. You know, the Fatah 1 is scary enough, but the Fatah 2 is extremely scary. You know, and that's nothing, man. Iran can just put a nuclear warhead on a Fatah 2 and wipe out Israel like this, you know, because they can't stop the Fatah. They can't stop that Fatah missile. Same thing with the Russians. They can't stop the old Rushnik. Same thing with the Chinese. They got the I forgot the name of their missile, but they got a missile where they call it 60+1 because it has a hydrogen component to that missile. It has about it has about 60 regular nuclear warheads, and it has one hydrogen bomb, which is the strongest out there. Nobody has a hydrogen bomb. Okay, I think the Russians were the first one to detonate one, which was the Tsar Bomba, which yielded like 130 megatons of power. You know, so it says, "They shall run to and fro in the city; they shall run upon the wall; they shall climb up upon the houses; they shall enter in at the windows like a thief." Right, right, like a thief. You can't if you don't see the thief, you can't stop the thief. They just come in, boom, and that's exactly what they do. Like I said, just take a look at the Fatah 2, right? These that theater uh, theater high altitude aerial defense missiles, which is what the THAAD stands for. They can't stop it. So, like just like you can't stop a thief, it just comes in. It penetrates your area, man. You know. It says it says they shall run to and fro in the city. They shall run upon the wall. They shall climb up upon the houses. They shall enter in at the windows like a thief. The earth shall quake before them. The heavens shall tremble. The sun and the moon shall be dark, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. And that's what happens when a nuclear missile hits. You know, it's gonna be so many nukes hitting here and everywhere else that the scriptures say that the earth is gonna move to and fro like a drunkard. All right, the nuclear missile was created to be used, man. What these people think that it, you know, the Lord gave them the ability to invent these nukes for nothing, just to sit there. Every weapon that has been formed have been used, and a nuclear missile ain't gonna be no different. It says, it says, and the stars shall withdraw their shining, and the Lord shall utter his voice before his army. For his camp is very great, for he is strong that executeth his word. For the day of the Lord is great and very terrible, and who can abide by it? Therefore also now, saith the Lord, turn ye even to me with all your heart, and with fasting, and with weeping, and with mourning, and rend your heart and not your garments, and turn unto the Lord your power, for he is gracious and merciful, slow to anger, of great kindness, and repenteth him of the evil, who knoweth if he will return and repent, and leave a blessing behind him, even a meat offering and a drink offering unto the Lord your power. Blow the trumpet in Zion, sanctify a fast, call a solemn assembly. Gather the people, sanctify the congregation, assemble the elders, gather the children, and those that suck breast. Let the bridegroom go forth of his chamber, and the bride out of her closet. Let the priests, the ministers of the Lord, weep between the porch and the altar, and let them say, spare thy people, O Lord, and give not thine heritage to reproach, that the heathen shall rule over them. Wherefore should they say among the people, where is their God? Then will the Lord be jealous for his land and pity his people. And hey, that's exactly what's going on, man. That's exactly what's going on. This is all prophecy that's coming to pass. You know, and we're the prophets. Why? Because we understand these breakdowns. We know what it's saying, and we know what's going to happen. Which the word prophecy means to say things before they happen. You see, um, all these nations, you know, they laugh at us, man. They talk about us. They say, where's their who's going to help them? Who's going to help these people right here? They've been in bondage and slavery for so long. They lost who they are. Their life is without purpose. They ain't never been nothing more than porch monkeys. That our history is nothing more than porch monkeys, slaves, whether it be in the Caribbean island, in the Americas. All right, all we've known is slavery, right? And that's what this is going into. Where's their God? Who's their power? Who helps them, right? And that's what's gonna cause the Lord to be real tight, man. Why? Because we're the apple of the Lord's eye. These people right here are the apple of the Lord's eye. You touch the apple of the Lord's eye, so you're gonna get got. All right, Most High gonna destroy all you damn devils, man. All you Edomites, enjoy, max out your credit cards, do what y'all do, man. Keep conquering, do your shit, man. Why? Because you're rallying up a tab, and the Lord is getting ready to come down and collect. Okay, that's what's gonna happen, man. And we can't wait. We can't wait. The scriptures say, "Wait upon me," right? For mine, vengeance is mine. The Lord is the ultimate avenger. We're waiting upon Him to give us the power to break you in pieces, as the scriptures say. Thou art my battle axe and weapons of war. With thee I will break in pieces the nations. All you nations are gonna broke in pieces, and all you white women, all you gonna be concubines, man, with your pride and shit. Same thing with you Moabite, you Chinese women too, man. We got brothers that love China. I know my brother loves his Moabite, man. My brother loves his Moabite. You know. So yeah, man. Hey man, listen. The Lord is a just, righteous power. The scriptures say that imperfect balance is an abomination to the Heavenly Father, man. How is it that all these people right here have been able to do us so dirty and pretty much take over the world for so long, have everything, and the Lord ain't gonna do nothing about it? It's preposterous. It's crazy. It's not sound. So you can clearly expect from the Heavenly Father the same thing being done unto you. As the scriptures say, he that leadeth to captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience of the saints. So if you went around killing and robbing and pillaging, well, guess what? When you get robbed, you get killed by the sword. Good to you. Good riddance. And that's exactly what the Edomites have done, aka so-called white men. They went around robbing, putting people in slavery, killing with the sword. Then the Lord is going to make it so that he's murdered, robbed, and killed with the sword, in traffic with it. All right. It says, "Fear not, O land, be glad and rejoice, for the Lord will do great things. Be not afraid, ye beasts of the field, for the pastures of the wilderness do spring. For the tree beareth her fruit, the fig tree, the vine, do yield their strength. Be glad then, ye children of Zion, and rejoice in the Lord your power, for he hath given you the former rain moderately, and he will cause to come down for you the rain, the former rain, and the latter rain in the first month." And that means all of our glory that we had, the reign that we had over the world during the time of King David and King Solomon, which was 40 years of peace, right? Under King David was 40 years of war, I believe, and under Solomon, 40 years of peace. All that's going to come back twofold, and we're going to reign forever. We're going to be the masters of the world forever. Okay, you want to talk about race superiority, right? Superior race, right? You want to talk about all these things, but what you fail to see and consider, which a lot of these damn devils know, is that these people are better than you at every single thing you can name under the planet. You know, we're smarter than you. You know, we're physically more capable than you. Okay, we have better genes than you. Okay, you take a look, man. You know, and the only reason why these devils were able to conquer our people is because the Lord allowed it to happen. The Lord set them loose because he promised that if we violated his laws, statutes, and commandments, he would turn his back on us and he would deliver us to a cruel, lawless enemy, which is the Edomites, so-called white man. You know. Revelations 17 and 7. It says, "And the angel said unto me, Wherefore dost thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which had the 7 heads and 10 horns." It says the beast. Salaki, I should read up. Revelation 17 and 4. It says, "And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abomination and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth." And just like I said earlier, America is Babylon. America is known as Babylon the Great. The word Babylon means confusion. This is the land of confusion, right? It says the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. And all these women are harlots too, man. That goes into the woman too. You know, and it also goes into these other nations that they sit in bed and they lie in bed with America. They make treaties with America. And America rips it up at will. As we found out, they don't care about international law. You know, which was the world order that they wrote post Cold War. Trump just broke international law. He said, "Fuck it with international law," right? He just declared a war of aggression, which the Nuremberg trial. If you go back to the Nuremberg trial, you'll see that they hung the Germans, all the Germans, because of that very same charge, which was a war of aggression. That's what they hung the Germans. That's exactly what Trump just did, a war of aggression. So by that default, he should be hung, right? But you know, we the scriptures say that his words were smoother than butter, but war was in his heart. The scriptures also say, "Woe to them that trust thine enemy," right? For as iron rusted, so is his wickedness. You know, the so-called white man got no morals, man. You know, this is the harbinger of death we're talking about. This man is evil. All right, this international law, international world order. That was nothing more than a hoax to get everybody else in line. You know, so that they can have an excuse to do whatever they do, whether it be invading Iraq, invading whatever. You know, these other nations can't meddle and basically make it a jungle. But that's exactly what this man Trump is doing. He's making it he's making the world the law of the jungle, which the law of the jungle is, you know, the bigger man eats the smaller man, and that's capitalism. That's what capitalism is. As a matter of fact, that's what these devils believe in. All right. So it says, "And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints," and that woman is still talking about America. It says, "And with the blood of the martyrs of Yahweh Shai. And when I saw her, I wondered with great admiration. And the angel said unto me, Wherefore dost thou marvel? I will tell thee the mystery of the woman and of the beast that carrieth her, which hath 7 heads and 10 horns. The beast that thou sawest was and is not, and shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition." That beast is talking about so-called white Esau and his system. Okay, that's that beast that came out of the bottomless pit, because they came from Europe. Europe is known as the bottomless pit. Okay, and because nothing grows in Europe, you know, they went from Seir, the Caucasus. That's why he's known as Caucasian, right? And then they went to Europe. They're not even native Europeans. They come from the Caucasus, and even before that from Mount Seir, Petra. Okay, it says, "The beast that thou sawest was and is not, shall ascend out of the bottomless pit and go into perdition. And they that dwell on the earth shall wonder, whose names were not written in the book, okay, of life, from the foundation of the world, when they behold the beast that was and is not and yet is. And here is the mind which has wisdom. The 7 heads are 7 mountains on which a woman sitteth, and they are 7 kings. 5 are fallen, and one is, and the other is not yet come. And when he cometh, he must continue a short space. Mountains represents kingdoms and governments. Okay, so they sit upon these European nations. Okay, um, which which um, which they use these nations, right, in these alliances to basically wrap their dominion on the world. But that's gonna that's gonna collapse. That's gonna collapse. Like we're visually seeing it. We're seeing Trump, right, calling the NATO a paper tiger, talking about taking NATO, um, breaking the NATO treaty, right? And that's when we get into Revelation, there's gonna say the beast shall hate the whore, right? That's when these EU nations are gonna turn on America. And we saw what Spain is part of that. It's part of that conglomerate, right? Spain said they ain't gonna support the U.S. They don't want them to use their base, right? Starmer eventually he caved in a little bit, said, yeah, y'all can use that base that's out there, but then it got bombed, right? So they ain't gonna go to the Strait of Hormuz to open it. So we're seeing Esau's house just crumbling. As the scriptures say, if Satan be divided amongst himself, how can his kingdom stand? All these Edomite nations are divided. They're all divided. We go here. Revelations 18, right? And after these things, I saw another angel come down from heaven, having great power, and the earth was lightened with his glory. And he cried mightily with a strong voice, saying, Babylon the great is fallen, is become the habitation of devils, and the hold of every foul spirit, and the cage of every unclean and hateful bird. For all nations have drunk of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of the earth have committed fornication with her. Just like I mentioned earlier about Rev 18, right? So Babylon is going to be burnt, and that's what this is going into here. Babylon, the land of confusion, right? It's going to be a complete desert where nobody's going to ever dwell here again. Modern day Babylon, ancient Babylon, Salaki, is modern day Iraq. Okay, and there's people there. There's people there. All right, so we know that this ain't talking about no ancient Babylon. This is talking about modern Babylon, right, which is here. It says, and I heard another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. And those plagues are nukes. Okay, they're nukes. Twofold, because the people of the Lord are going to come out of her mentally. We're going to put aside the Babylonian mentality. And also when the Lord comes back in these so-called UFOs, these unidentified flying objects, right, which are the vehicle, the chariots of Israel, that's when the Lord's going to rapture up his elect, and we're going to meet him up in the clouds. Adawan Ratazah, we're part of that number. Okay, so that's what this is saying. It says, For her sins have reached unto heaven, and the Most High hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she had filled to her double. And most importantly, that's talking about the people, because the land is not a nation. The land itself comprised of the nation, the people that live in the land. Okay, so the people that live here, they have a lot to pay for. Okay, It says, reward her even as she rewarded you, double unto her, double according to her works. And the cup which she hath filled, filled to her double. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire. For strong is the Lord power that judgeth her, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning. And the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of the torment, saying, Alas, alas, the great city Babylon, the mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come, and the merchants of the earth shall weep and mourn over her, for no man buyeth their merchandise any more. The merchandise of gold and silver and precious stones, and of pearl and fine linen, and purple and silk, and scarlet, and all thine wood, and all manner of vessels of ivory, and all manner of vessels of most precious wood, and of brass and iron and marble, and cinnamon and odors and ointments. And that's what traffics through the Strait of Hormuz. Strait of Hormuz doesn't only traffic oil, crude oil. It traffics fertilizers, you know, which there's going to be a global famine because there's no fertilizer. There's no fertilizers coming through the straits. You know, now the Houthis, they can block the Red Sea. You know, Ansar Allah could block the Red Sea, and then we're fucked. And then they're really gonna be fucked, because that's gonna be what, over almost half of the world's global supply of everything that comes through there. Not just oil, but like I said, fertilizers. You know, the material that you need to build these chips, this microchips, the plastics that you need, the everything, you name it. A lot of it come from Men El Dad, that port over there in the Red Sea. You see, so you gotta be, hey man, we're coming upon some crazy times, man. You know, like I read, the storehouses are gonna be found suddenly empty. They're gonna be found suddenly empty, man. You know, and ultimately the ultimatum is America being burned with fire. And before that, also have to keep in mind the petrodollar, the decline of the petrodollar, which is important because these devils are going to want to switch you up to a digital based currency via these microchip. Okay, the signet, which is the mark of the beast, that speaks of Revelation the 13th chapter. Okay, and this ain't conspiracy, man. You can look these all these things up. It's a fact. What holds the petrodollar, right, is the fact that all these Gulf Arab states, they transact their oil transactions and business in dollars, and then they recycle that dollar into your bonds, right? That's what the petrodollar is, and right now the petrodollar is being threatened. Why? Because Iran is pounding them Gulf states. They destroyed a lot of the oil refineries, and a lot of the infrastructure that it takes have been destroyed. You know, so it's going to get interesting because if when this war resumes, which is going to resume, all right, and they do some stupid shit like attack Iranian critical infrastructure, like the desalination plants and shit, the energy infrastructure. Guess what? Iran is going to take out the Arab Gulf states desalination plant, and that's going to be a goddamn desert. Abu Dhabi, all them Gulf states. What's going on, brother? All them Gulf states are nothing more than fictitious nations. They were just built on modern technology. That's what holds them together, because those are literally deserts, and a society can't function without water, right? You need water for the society to function. So these desalination plants, they clean the water that they collect, and that's how they get most of their potable water. So if those get taken out, bye bye Emirates, bye bye. Well, Saudi Arabia, they're coming to terms now, but Kuwait, and all these damn Arab states, they go bye bye. It's done. And guess what? Bye bye petrodollar. The petrodollar is going to take a huge hit. It's going to take a dive, right? So that means that all these wars that we fought in the past, America's fought for nothing. It'll be for nothing, right? All them soldiers that died in Iraq, Afghanistan, and all these, it'll be for nothing. Their deaths are meaningless. It'll be for nothing, all right? Because guess what? The devil don't care. America's nothing more than the enforcer of these international banking families, man. That's all. You know, they only care about the money. Take a look at one of the Rothschilds. He said, "I care not who writes the law, as long as I have control of a nation's money." And that's exactly what they've done. All the Rothschild family, the Rockefellers, this is all they're doing. This is all they've been. Okay? But like I said, the average American Joe, they don't care about these things because it doesn't affect them. Until it does, then it's, oh shit, what's going on here? You know, that's when they start caring. And they're gonna find out. Everything we've been saying has been true through the spirit and power of Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. They're gonna find out, right? And the first taste of that is gas prices. You know, when they hit $8-9 a gallon, that's when it hits home. You know, that's when diesel hits $10 a gallon. That's when it hit home. All right, and then everybody gonna be like, oh, you know. But you know, anyways, I'm gonna leave it there. You know, I don't want Ratazah. I'll be out here next week, prophesying. You know, if the Lord wills it. I'm gonna say, Call Halal Yamla, Yahweh, Ba'Hashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'Hashem Rakah Kodash, double honors and again to the elders and apostles of great millstone, whom I learned the truth from. Greetings, salutations to all you Akins that are tuning in to the next one. I say Shalom, Abad Baba, Form Shalom.